In the year 1861, the controversial issue of slavery had put northern and southern United States in a war known as the Civil War. The Civil War was fought over the issue of African Americans being treated as property. The North believed that African Americans should have rights, but on the other hand, the South thought the opposite. If slaves from the South wanted to be free, they would have to escape and go to the North. In order to escape the South, the Underground Railroad was established. The Underground Railroad was a system of networks that were kept secret using codes. The slaves sang songs, and in the songs there were codes that explained the plan for escape. People who strongly believed that African Americans should not be treated as property would help guide the slaves to the North. These people were known as conductors. Harriet Tubman was one of the famous conductors in the Underground Railroad, and she put her life in danger many times in order to help slaves be free. She was born into slavery in Maryland to her mother Harriet Green and her father Ben Ross. Harriet had a big family, as she had 4 sisters and 4 brothers. When Harriet was 5 years old, she had to work by taking care of her master's baby. Therefore, Harriet did not have a normal childhood, where she could play any time she wanted. If Harriet did not do the work assigned to her, she would be punished. Since Harriet Tubman started working at a young age, her master let other masters borrow her to do other work for them. Little Harriet was often quickly returned to her regular master because she was treated very badly by those masters who would borrow her. While Harriet was still a young slave, she helped another slave escape from his overseer. An overseer is a person who is appointed by the master to watch over the slaves. She was grocery shopping when she noticed that the slave tried to make a run for it, and his overseer saw him. Harriet got in the way in order to give the slave time to escape, but this incident ended badly. The overseer tried to throw a heavy piece of metal at his slave, but ended up hitting Harriet in the head. The result of this tragic event was that she developed an illness called narcolepsy. Narcolepsy makes a person sleep at random, and it is hard to wake them up. Even though she received this blow to the head and developed narcolepsy from it, at 5 feet tall, she was stronger than most men out on the plantation. On the plantation, she heard that she and her family were going to be sold off to different places. She did not want this to happen, so Harriet made the courageous decision to escape. She convinced 2 of her brothers to join her, but in the middle of the journey, both brothers got scared and wanted to go back. Instead of parting ways, she went back with them to make sure they were safe and continued on her journey to freedom. Like many others, Harriet Tubman followed the North Star to guide her north. Slaves that were escaping the South would look to the North Star to guide them to the North, because the star symbolized freedom for them. Following the star, she ended up in the free state of Pennsylvania. When she was aware that she had crossed the line, she said, "I looked at my hands to see if I was the same person. There was such a glory over everything. The sun came like gold through the trees, and I felt like I was in heaven." Once Harriet had made it to the North, she wanted to help people escape to freedom just like she did. In order to help, she became a conductor in the Underground Railroad to help slaves be free. Her first trip was going back for Keziah and her 2 children. Keziah's son James grew up to become Harriet's apprentice, which later paid off because he would eventually be elected into the South Carolina legislature. Being a conductor was very dangerous work. If slaves or conductors were caught, the price to pay was 6 months in jail. In total, when Harriet was a conductor, she helped free 300 slaves in 19 trips, or better known in the Underground Railroad as her passengers. Harriet was widely referred to as the Moses of her people for her time as a conductor and saving so many. Harriet took pride in knowing that she did not lose any passenger. After her days of being a conductor, Harriet joined the Civil War effort and was used as a volunteer nurse, cook, and helped with laundry. With these duties, she was also responsible for looking after the liberated slaves. Due to her background of being a conductor and knowing her way around the land, they appointed Harriet to lead the Combahee River Raid, which ended up liberating 750 slaves. After the North defeated the South in the Civil War, Harriet used the money she had saved to buy land in Auburn, New York. She opened a nursing home for African Americans. Harriet not only helped African Americans specifically, but anyone in need. In 1913, she was buried with military honors at Auburn's Fort Hill Cemetery. Harriet was an inspiration to all people of every race who shared the same passion of freeing slaves, but more importantly, to the African Americans she helped free. Harriet Tubman's legacy will live on, and she will forever be remembered as a hero.